Voting rights groups are making it perfectly clear to President Joe Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris, don't come to Atlanta tomorrow without a plan. The president and the vice president, they're going to be in Georgia tomorrow to speak on the campus, first of all, in Atlanta about the importance of voting rights. Well, President Biden has done that before. Vice President Kamala Harris has done that before. But the question is, what is the plan to get the Senate to move to end the filibuster to pass these two bills? The House has already done their part. They have passed the For the People Act. But the Senate has not taken any action whatsoever. Let's go to Cliff Albright, co-founder of Black Voters Matter, who joins us right now. We're also joined by Sirius XM radio show host Joe Madison, who is on day 65 of his hunger strike, which he started in order to move the folks in Congress to act on voting rights. All right, Cliff, I want to start with you. So, White House is making a big deal out of this speech tomorrow. The president and the vice president, it's very rare that they travel out of time together if it's not the conventions. And so it's very rare they're in the same place at the same time. But they're going to be in Atlanta on the campus of the Atlanta University system, first of all, Morehouse campuses as well, to talk about voting rights. You and others say we can skip it because no plan is just more talk.
Yeah, Roland, exactly right. And first of all, let me say two things. First, let me say congratulations to you on the new studio. Absolutely amazing. And second, let me just say hello, and I'll just give my thanks to Joe Madison, who continues to be an inspiration with the hunger strike that he's been on. Yeah, you know, we put out a statement. We just did a presser just about within the past hour or so, just telling people that no, the Georgia groups, we were saying there's no need for you to come if all you're going to do is just say the same old thing that you've been saying, talk about how important voting rights is without actually having either a plan or a clear message, a strong message calling for modification of the filibuster. He has not done that yet. He said that he could be open to it, that he could support it if it's necessary, and all this other conditional stuff. And so at bare minimum, what he would need to do would be to do a strong, unequivocal call for modifying the filibuster. That's what we've been asking him to do literally for 8 months now. That's the bare minimum. But more importantly, what we're saying is unless you've really got a plan or making an announcement, like what we would prefer would be if you're going to come to Georgia, let it be because you're coming telling to us that you've worked out the deal already with Manchin and Sinema. That would be worth a visit. But otherwise, he could deliver this speech in D.C. In fact, what he could have done is he could have gone to the Senate the same way he went to the House telling them to pass infrastructure last month. He could have gone to the Senate and delivered a speech there and got them to actually vote on it, because then they could have taken a vote while they're in D.C. But guess what? Because they're coming to Atlanta and bringing some other senators with them in addition to our home state senators, guess what? That means they can't even vote on whatever they were already going to vote on in order to move this forward. So we're actually literally losing a day of action because he's doing this speech. And so he's got to have a strong message tomorrow, but we won't be attending. We'll be coming together and doing a press conference after the speech to talk about the substance of the speech, and hopefully there'll be something substantive that we can talk about, but we don't see a need to attend because at the end of the day, they keep trying to test us to see if we'll show up for them. And we can't keep showing up for stuff until they deliver. It's the same way we can't just continue to show up in these midterm elections under this notion that we're just going to out-organize the voter suppression. So we want to hear what he has to say first before we decide on what it is we're going to show up to next.
Well, Joe, many people say to use the bully pulpit of the White House. Isn't tomorrow's speeches by the president and the vice president doing that very same thing?
No, and I'll tell you why. And let's be real, and let's also understand the division of power. The President of the United States does not have a vote. There are two obstructionists, and that is Sinema and Manchin. There's no ifs, ands, buts about it. I absolutely agree with the strategy that I just heard. I'm not going to get off my hunger strike until this bill is signed, sealed, and delivered. So I issued a statement today. I'm hoping that there will be a clarion call to tell these two senators to do what they did just a couple of weeks ago when they carved out the filibuster to raise or to pay the debt ceiling. Look, people, please understand. The filibuster has been adjusted, carved out more than a Thanksgiving turkey. 169 times since 1960. And it is almost an insult to sit here and say, well, I can carve it out to get a Supreme Court justice confirmed. I can carve it out for 160 other issues. But when it comes to protecting the vote, I've got issues. And I've said to the senators directly and to the majority leader directly that I don't know if you're talking to consultants. I don't know who you're talking to, but you better go into the beauty shops and barber shops and listen to Roland's show and listen to my show and listen to people, because if you don't do this, if you don't pass this bill, you're going to lose the midterm election in the House, you're going to lose the midterm election in the Senate, and you sure in hell won't win re-election. And it's not that we'll go vote for Trump, we just won't go vote. And that is what's being said, Roland, across the board. I don't care if you're a Morehouse, a Spelman grad, or if you're out there working a construction site. This is what is being said in our community across the board.
Cliff, the point that Joe just made, I've said the exact same thing to White House officials. Y'all have said the exact same thing. You said earlier, look, we can't out-organize voter suppression. Literally, the White House officials have actually said that, thinking that can actually happen. Do they have any idea of what the hell is actually happening out here?
I don't think so, and I think part of it is a result of when you've got this notion of American exceptionalism, when you've got this notion of, the good old days, this nostalgia for the way the country used to be or the way that the Senate used to operate before Trump, as if he was the only problem, right? When you've got that kind of nostalgia and a misunderstanding, I've said it before, Joe Biden likes to talk about saving the soul of America. You can't save the soul of America if you are unclear about how infected that soul has become, and if you're unclear about the origins of the infection, then you can't save the soul of America. And so I think that there's a lot of confusion around this that keeps him from coming up with strategies that will be effective. To your point earlier about the bully pulpit, we are all in favor of using the bully pulpit. In fact, part of what we have argued over the past 8 months is that he could have been using the bully pulpit for voting rights this entire time. He could have done a whole tour across the country doing a whole series of voting rights speeches in places like Arizona and West Virginia, but also in historic places like Alabama and Mississippi. He could have used that bully pulpit all throughout this year so that we wouldn't be at this point now. The problem is that he chose not to, because of this nostalgia that they have for the way things used to be. And that's why now at this point where he's talking about making a speech, what we're saying is that's not enough. We need you to have more at this point. But this would have been fine. This would have been good if when he gave his first speech to the joint session of Congress back last spring, he could have used the bully pulpit for voting rights then. But go back to that speech, Roland. Some of us said it then. He didn't talk about, it was an hour-long speech, and he didn't talk about voting rights until the last 2 minutes of the speech. And at that point, only gave it 2 sentences.
And can I add something now? And you brought to my attention. In large part, I blame the mainstream media. I mean, look, I've been sitting up here without solid food, and because I'm joining in solidarity. This is not about me. If this is the most important thing that we're now hearing a week before the King holiday, then, where it has now mainstream media. is now bringing it up. But we tried to focus to get them to get this vote before they left for the Christmas holiday. And you know, it's like they're on somebody else's time frame. Now, look, I'm being, let me say, cautiously optimistic. I don't know whether they have a plan and they're just not saying what it is. I do know that I have been in conversation with members of the Senate, and that they, as we speak, they're trying to move to get this vote. I'm just, you know, and I've just made it very clear. And Roland, you've known me for years. I made it very clear. I'm not going to move on this. I'm going to continue my protest, and until this thing is signed, sealed, and delivered. But if it's not, because I know Roland's next question is going to be, well, then what are you going to do? I'll cross that chasm when I get to it. But let me tell you, it will be a chasm.
Cliff, on this very issue, you said this earlier when President Joe Biden went to the Senate, went to the House to meet with them, to press upon them to vote for his bill. We've heard about the numerous times, 300 some odd times, they had folks to the White House on the infrastructure bill. I don't recall, maybe y'all do, but I don't recall a single time where Biden has specifically called Sinema, Manchin, and there are other Democrats who don't want to get rid of the filibuster, has called the leadership and those two to the White House specifically on the voting bill. So again, I get it. You want to give a speech, the backdrop, Atlanta, you're going to invoke MLK, you're going to invoke the people who marched and died and all this sort of stuff along those lines. But if you're not bringing them to the White House and looking them in the eye across the table and say, I want this done, then to me, you're not actually using all of your power.
That's exactly right. It's not just that he's not doing the things that, say, LBJ did in 1965 to get the Voting Rights Act passed. Actions LBJ took because movement forced him to, but still, LBJ would lean into it, bring you in his office, get in your face, right? It's not just that he's not doing the things that other presidents have done to pass key pieces of legislation. He's not doing the stuff that he has recently done to get infrastructure passed, as you just pointed out. And whether that's calling them in for meetings, whether that's going to Congress to meet with the House caucus to tell them, look, I need you to vote on this and I need you to vote on it now. He's not done the things that he has done for other stuff. He's not done the things that I'm assuming he has seen done during his 40 years in the Senate. That's where the shortfall is. Now, we know at the end of the day that he doesn't get a vote on the actual legislation. But what we know is that what presidents do matter. The way that they lean into legislation matters. Obama didn't vote for Obamacare, but I'll be doggone, it's sure enough called Obamacare. And so what presidents do matter, and he has not done enough. He has not lived up to his own knowledge, his own experience, his own skills, or his own words. That's why we've been frustrated with him. That's why we won't be attending. Not to mention that, we got some other work to do instead of sitting there for 2-3 hours or however long it takes him to give his speech, because we're fighting some of this stuff in Georgia right now. As you know, Roland, in Lincoln County right now, some of our partners are out there right now because they're trying to close down 6 out of 7 polling places. That's what these Georgia Republicans are trying to do as they're fighting voting rights. They're not wasting a day. We can't afford to waste a day either just to hear another speech unless he's got a clear plan and a strong call. And like I said, preferably he's making an announcement that they've got a deal on the filibuster.
And I'm sorry, just
go ahead.
Time. I want to say this. You guys are so on target. Manchin, find out what Manchin wants. Find out what Sinema wants. That's what Johnson did. Those segregationists didn't want to vote for the 65 Voting Rights Act. They But Johnson made it very clear. You want this bridge? Well, we're not going to give you federal money for a bridge, and then you're going to segregate who gets to cross it. Find out what they want. Manchin wants something, and whatever he wants, it has to be worth the right to vote. That's what what we're really saying. You have the power, the purse. You have the power to find what they want and cut a deal. Man, if you can cut a deal once again to get billions of dollars to pay off our debts, our country's debt. My God, you mean to tell me that you can't find what these two want? And I think you're absolutely right. Bring them into the White House, sit them down, and grab them by the lapel. But I'm going to tell you, these two better realize something. They will single-handedly end up putting the party in a minority position. And I suspect Manchin knows that he doesn't want to be a minority senator. And Sinema, maybe she's too new to realize how much power she will lose. So I'll be honest with you. I'm not going to be in Atlanta. And you remember what Dr. Martin Luther King used to say, and I'll close, and he used to say, I'd rather see a sermon any day than to hear one.
Very point there. Joe, I do want to get your comment on this here. A number of faith leaders as well as students have announced that their own hunger strikes when it comes to voting rights. Just your thoughts on that.
Everybody can do something. That's my mantra, always has been. I can't, I was teasing your crew, Roland. I can't do what you do with social media. Man, you are a master at it. But I can do something. And that's why the two of us are here with you. Everybody can do something. And my mentor was Dick Gregory. So people are saying, well, how are you doing? Look, I had the best mentor when it came to doing a hunger strike or a fast than any human being on the planet had. And when I started this, I started because I realized history, that when the first Reconstruction ended, the first thing those folks went after was the vote. The Klan was born. South Carolina, they assassinated black elected officials. And I see the end of what we often call the second Reconstruction. And I'll be damned if I'm going to have my children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren asked 25 years from now or whenever history is written, well, what did Pop do to protect our rights? And so, I did what Dick would do. I didn't ask permission to do and if I can sacrifice, and people and students can sacrifice food, let me tell you something. Just as food is essential to sustain life, this vote is a necessity to sustain and maintain this democracy.
Absolutely, and that's one of the reasons why, Cliff, we have long made this a priority. People we know when I got Journalist of the Year for the National Association of Black Journalists in 2013, it was because of my coverage of voter suppression. So for folks who want to act like this stuff is new, that was 2012, 2013, and it was going on beforehand. And I was watching, I saw this clip on Meet the Press where it was a short conversation, Chuck Todd, Cornell Belcher, and this Republican who was saying, oh, this is no big deal. Everybody wants voter ID. They love, Cliff, to try to make this all out to be about voter ID when this is not about voter ID. It's the closing of thousands of polling locations all across the South since the gutting of Section 4 of the Voting Rights Act. It's about changing of voting hours. It's about targeting the black head of the brother who's a clerk in Harris County who put in some innovative steps. It's stopping all of those things. They want to shrink the voting populace because when you shrink it, Democrats win, when Republicans win, when you expand it, they will admit, oh, we lose because they don't want to appeal to, frankly, beyond white folks. They want to appeal to a sliver of black people, a larger percentage of Latinos. They want to appeal to white folks, and that's what this whole game is, Cliff.
Yeah, you're exactly right. I think, Florida, all those examples you gave are accurate. Florida is a great example. In Florida, Republicans have always benefited from the vote by mail system there. They've counted on it to win and sometimes to steal elections in the state of Florida. But in the last election cycle, it was because black and brown folks came out and young folks came out and voted using record numbers using the vote by mail. All of a sudden, Florida had an issue with vote by mail and passed their voters' person bill to overturn it. I think the challenge to this, so as much energy and attention we pay to Joe Biden and Manchin and Sinema, the point that you're making is important. We got to be clear about the source of the problem. The source of the problem are these folks that are using all these means, including violence, which is what the insurrection was all about. There's a direct connection between these things. That's why they was inside the Capitol with the Confederate flag. All of this is connected. And so that is the source of the problem. The reason, though, we put so much energy into Biden and Schumer and the Democrats is because we put them in power.
We put them there
to make a difference for the folks like us who put them in office. The last thing I'm going to say real quick is Bernice King had a tweet today, very short tweet. It was a quick video of her father, Dr. Martin Luther King, and it had just a couple of words talking about be maladjusted to injustice, right? And the point is that, when it comes to injustice, we need to be maladjusted. We need not accept injustice. We need not become comfortable and accustomed to injustice. And too often we have become comfortable and we have normalized some stuff that we should not be insensitized to. That's what it means to be maladjusted to injustice. That's what we need everybody to do in regards to this voting rights battle. And like Joe said, everybody's got a role to play. Doing media, social media, a tweet, a phone call, a text, cooking some food for the folks that are doing the protests. Everybody's got a role to play in this. Don't think that this is something for somebody else to take up. There's a role for everybody, including every single person that is watching this right now. You make the difference.
Absolutely. Cliff Albright, Joe Madison, I appreciate it. Thanks a bunch. Y'all take care. All right, folks, back to our Roland Martin Unfiltered video in just one moment. Folks, Black Star Network is here.
Hold no punches.
I'm real revolutionary right now. Black power.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Stay black. I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, this difference between Black Star Network and black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?